Living with a free mind. Buddhist insight into freedom. We think freedom is about having choices, the right job, the right relationship, enough money, enough time. We spend most of our lives believing that once we arrange the outside well enough, something inside will finally settle. But it doesn't. You get the promotion, and within a week, you're worried about the next one. You finally have a free Sunday, and your mind fills it with noise anyway, rehearsing future conversations, worrying about things that may never happen. Somewhere along the way, many of us hear, "Let go, free your mind." And we picture one of two things, either becoming numb, shutting everything down, floating through life like a dead lake, or walking away from everything, leaving the job, the relationships, the responsibilities. The first leaves you hollow. The second doesn't work either. The weight follows you because it was never coming from the outside. So, look at the Buddha himself. After his awakening, he could have stayed under that Bodhi tree in perfect, undisturbed peace. He didn't. For 45 years, he walked across India. He sat with farmers, spoke with kings, held space for a father carrying his dead child. He mediated disputes among his monks, returned to visit his family, washed a sick monk that no one would touch. 45 years of walking, listening, teaching, caring. That is a free mind, not removed from life, but moved by it, fully present inside it, and yet not imprisoned by any of it. The question is, what was happening inside him that was different from what happens inside us? Think about something that probably happened to you recently. Someone said something, a colleague, your partner, a stranger online, a criticism you didn't expect, or a tone that felt dismissive. And something shifted inside you, a tightness in the chest, a heat in the face, sharp, immediate, undeniable. That initial reaction is natural. It's built into the way human experience works. A feeling arises the moment your senses make contact with something, pleasant, unpleasant, or somewhere in between. Before you even have time to think about it, it's already there. That feeling in itself is not where you lose your freedom. What happens next is, within seconds, your mind starts building. They don't respect me. I'm always the one treated this way. I need to prove myself. One remark, and suddenly, you're living inside a whole narrative about your worth and theirs. You might go over that moment 10 times that evening, refine the story each time, carry it for a week. Some people carry stories like this for decades. The Buddha had a precise word for this movement of mind. Tanha, craving, thirst, the compulsive grasping that seizes an experience and won't release it. I want this to continue. I want this to stop. This grasping, this pushing away, is what turns a passing moment into lasting suffering. The original experience would have faded on its own, like a sound fade. The story you built on top of it is what locked the door. And we do this with everything. With praise. Someone compliments you, and you run it through your head for days, feeding on it. With criticism. Someone disapproves, and you construct an elaborate defense in your mind, arguing with a person who isn't even in the room. With fear. You imagine a future loss so vividly that you suffer from it now, before it has even happened. The strange thing is, the mind isn't doing this to hurt you. It thinks it's protecting you. Every explanation it constructs is an attempt to make sense of what happened, to prepare for what might come next, to keep you safe. The problem is that the protection becomes the cage. The mind's effort to guard you from pain is itself the thing that keeps the pain alive. And because it happens so fast, so automatically, most people never notice the mechanism at work. They just live inside it, believing it is the truth. So, What does freedom actually look like in that moment, when someone has just said something that stings? It looks like feeling the sting fully, without pretending it isn't there, and not writing the next 10 chapters of the story. It's the space between what arose and what you do with it. The reaction still comes. It always will. But you're no longer dragged away by it before you even realize you've left. And this is the part most people misunderstand. They hear equanimity, upekkha, in Pali, and they picture coldness, a blank face, total detachment. But upekkha stands alongside metta, loving kindness, alongside karuna, compassion, alongside mudita, the ability to feel joy when others are happy. These are the 4 Brahma Viharas, the 4 highest states of the human heart. Equanimity isn't the absence of feeling. It's what happens when you love without playing favorites, feel compassion without drowning in it, rejoice without clinging. Like a mother with 4 children, she loves all of them, steady and even, regardless of who behaves well and who gives her trouble. Late in the Buddha's life, his 2 closest disciples, Sariputta and Moggallana, passed away within weeks of each other. When he addressed the gathered monks afterward, he said the assembly felt empty now. He didn't hide the loss. He acknowledged it openly. And he kept walking, kept teaching, kept being present for whoever came to him. To feel the loss completely and to keep going, present, feeling, unbroken. That is equanimity lived, not theorized. Everything we've talked about might make sense in the abstract, but your life is not abstract. Your life is a job you have to show up to. A parent who needs care, a child who needs attention, a partner who needs patience, a bank account that keeps you up at night. So what does any of this look like on a Tuesday evening when you're exhausted? There's a teaching called the Dutya-loka Dhamma Sutta, where the Buddha described 8 conditions that move through every human life without exception. They come in pairs: gain and loss, fame and disrepute, praise and blame, pleasure and pain. No one escapes them. Not kings, not monks, not anyone. Then he asked, both the uninstructed person and the trained disciple encounter all 8. So what's the difference? His answer was direct. When the uninstructed person meets gain, they don't reflect that this gain is impermanent, subject to change. Gain obsesses their mind. Loss obsesses their mind. Praise obsesses their mind. Blame obsesses their mind. Attracted to one side, repelled by the other. They're pulled back and forth by whatever wind happens to be blowing. The trained disciple meets the same 8 winds, every single one, but they see each one for what it is, something that arose, something that will pass. And because they see clearly, gain does not obsess their mind. Loss does not obsess their mind. As the verse that closes this teaching says, a wise and mindful person knows these conditions and sees that they are subject to change. This is what that looks like in practice. At work, the project you poured yourself into gets dismissed, and you feel the disappointment without letting it harden into resentment. Someone praises you in a meeting, and you enjoy it without needing to run it through your head for 3 days. You stand in the middle of changing conditions and remain whole, the way a mountain stands through 4 seasons without clinging to spring or fighting winter. But the real test is at home, where you're exhausted, where the people closest to you know exactly which buttons to press. A father who is present, truly aware of what's happening inside him, doesn't pour his workday frustration onto his children. He feels the exhaustion, feels the irritation, and sees it. That seeing opens a small space, just enough to choose. And that space, the first few times you find it, feels strange, almost uncomfortable, because your whole body is ready to react. The words are already forming, the tone is already sharpening, and you just don't. You hold still. You let the wave move through you instead of riding it into the next argument. It's not easy. It's not natural at first, but something in the room changes when you do it. Something your children feel before they could ever name it. None of this is dramatic. That's the thing people miss. It doesn't look like a breakthrough or a spiritual awakening. It looks like a pause. A wife who hears a careless remark, feels the sharpness, and recognizes it as something that will pass, instead of escalating it into 3 days of silence. An employee who doesn't let resentment toward a boss poison every evening at home. You take one breath instead of firing back. You notice the urge to check your phone during dinner, and you stay in the conversation. These moments are small, forgettable even, but they accumulate. And gradually, the people around you start living in a different atmosphere, because you've stopped filling the air with your unexamined reactions. When you look after your own mind, you are looking after everyone around you. They feel it. In your patience, in your tone, in the arguments that simply don't happen. That is freedom practiced in a household, in the middle of noise, while problems are still unsolved and bills are still unpaid. And maybe, as the practice deepens, something begins to take shape. A mind that is quiet, not empty, but quiet. A mind that can hear bad news without spiraling, that can sit with uncertainty without needing to resolve it immediately, that can feel anger rising and let it pass through without acting on it. A mind that sees clearly, even when emotions are strong, that loves deeply without being enslaved by that love, that faces loss without being shattered, and meets joy without clinging to it. That may be the most profound freedom a person can ever experience. Not freedom from life, but freedom within it. A mind liberated from the grip of its own reactions, steady amid whatever winds blow, still capable of feeling everything, but no longer at the mercy of every feeling. This is the freedom the Buddha was pointing to. And it doesn't ask you to leave the world. It asks you to be fully in it, with your eyes open and your heart intact. All of this raises a practical question. How do you get there? If freedom is about seeing clearly in the middle of difficulty, what does the actual training look like? The Buddha addressed this directly in the Savasava Sutta, where he laid out 7 ways that mental defilements, asava, can be dealt with, each suited to a different situation. Restraining the senses, enduring discomfort, avoiding what feeds your worst tendencies, actively developing qualities like mindfulness and equanimity. But the very first method he taught, the one he placed before all others, was abandoning by seeing. And this is worth sitting with because it reframes the entire practice. The Buddha said, "The ending of the fermentations is for one who knows and sees, not for one who does not know and does not see." Then he introduced a distinction that cuts through all the complexity. The difference between appropriate attention and inappropriate attention. Yoniso manasikara and ayoniso manasikara. An untrained person, when something painful happens, turns their attention toward questions that only deepen the suffering. Why does this always happen to me? What's wrong with me? What did I do to deserve this? The Buddha called these ideas unfit for attention, not because they're forbidden, but because attending to them causes unarisen defilements to arise and existing ones to grow stronger. The more you chew on why me, the deeper you sink. A trained person meets the same painful experience and directs their attention differently. They attend to, this is suffering. This is how suffering originates. This is how suffering ceases. This is the way leading to its cessation. A shift in where the mind looks, away from the narrative, toward the structure of what is actually happening. Away from why me, toward what feeds this. That shift, from what the mind is telling you to what is actually driving the experience, is what the Buddha meant by seeing. And it's the foundation everything else rests on. Every moment we've described, the pause before reacting, the breath taken instead of the word spoken, the argument that didn't happen, all of it begins here. The moment you see the mechanism instead of being run by it. What's remarkable about the Sabba Sabba Sutta is how practical it is. The Buddha wasn't describing one single technique for all situations. He recognized that different moments call for different responses. There are times when the right move is to restrain, to guard the senses, to step back before you get pulled in. Other moments ask for endurance, sitting with physical or emotional discomfort without needing to fix it or flee. In certain situations, the wisest thing is to avoid entirely, to stay away from people, places, or habits that reliably trigger your worst patterns. And there are seasons of life where the work is to develop, to actively cultivate the qualities that make clarity possible. Mindfulness, investigation, persistence, equanimity. But all of these rest on the first one. Without seeing, the others are just techniques performed in the dark. With seeing, with that clear, honest look at what is actually happening in your mind, every other method becomes purposeful. You're no longer fighting blindly. You know what you're working with. I need to say something honest. After everything we've talked about, equanimity, appropriate attention, the training of the mind, there's a risk it sounds too clean. Like understanding it is the same as living it. Here's the truth. You are not the Buddha. Neither am I. None of us are arahants. There will be mornings when meditation leaves your mind beautifully still. Then, 10 minutes of traffic erases every trace of it. There will be times when you understand completely that anger only burns the one who holds it, and someone touches the right wound, and you erupt anyway. There will be nights when you know that clinging causes suffering, and you cling regardless. You go over the same conversation in your head. You worry. You hold on. You project your child's struggles 20 years into the future, living through catastrophes that exist only in your imagination. That isn't hypocrisy. That is what it means to be a human being who hasn't completed the path. And the Buddha never asked you to stand somewhere else before you begin. He taught a path, Magga, because you haven't arrived yet. If you were already awake, you wouldn't need directions. This teaching doesn't demand perfection. It asks you to begin right where you are, with every imperfection intact. Anger still visits, each time you catch yourself mid-anger. Ah, this is anger. That noticing is already a kind of wisdom. You didn't stop it, but you saw it. And seeing it means you weren't entirely consumed. Craving still pulls at you. Each time you watch yourself reaching for approval, or certainty, or control, and you recognize the reaching, something has already shifted. And you will forget. You'll forget most of what resonated today. Life will pull you back in. Someone will say something, and the old narrative will start writing itself again. You'll lie awake at some point, tangled in thoughts you know aren't serving you. That isn't failure. That is the path. It's more like a spiral. You keep coming back to the same challenges, but each time you recognize them a little sooner, each time the old story holds you a little less long, and the moment you realize you've wandered, that moment of I lost it again, is itself the return. You come back every time, the way you'd guide a child learning to walk, not with lectures about balance, but by offering your hand. Be that patient with yourself. The Buddha compared it to a lute string. Too tight, and it snaps. Too loose, and it won't play. The practice asks for steady, gentle effort, and something does shift over time. It's hard to pinpoint when, but one day you notice that the same situation that used to ruin your entire week now only costs you an afternoon. A remark that would have kept you up for days now lands, hurts for an hour, and fades. You develop a familiarity with your own patterns. Ah, there it is again. And there's something almost tender about recognizing them. You know yourself better. You're less caught off guard by your own reactions. And in that knowing, a quiet kindness toward yourself begins to grow. Not because you've earned it, but because you've stopped demanding that you be something other than what you are. There's a verse in the Dhammapada, verse 80, that says it well. Farmers channel water to their fields. Fletchers straighten their arrows. Carpenters work the timber. And the wise tame themselves. Notice the images. A farmer guiding water doesn't force a reverse. He digs channels, adjusts, observes. Day after day, season after season. Working with your own mind is the same kind of work. Paying attention to where it goes. Noticing when it's been pulled away. Choosing to respond with awareness instead of habit. You don't need to climb a mountain for this, or wait until life calms down. Life doesn't calm down. There's always another wind blowing. The practice is how you meet the life that's already here. Every person hearing this is dealing with something. A worry that won't rest. A relationship that takes more than it gives. A grief that hasn't found its full shape yet. And some days, the weight is enough to make you forget that anything else exists. I'm not going to tell you to put it down. That wouldn't be honest. What I'll say is this. You can carry all of it and still be aware that you're carrying it. That awareness, even a small flicker of it, even when everything else is heavy, changes something. It doesn't fix the situation, but it means you're no longer buried under it without knowing. You can see it. And a mind that can see clearly, even in difficulty, is a mind that is already free in the way that matters most. That has always been the beginning. And every step from there, even the smallest, even the ones that feel like nothing, is already the path.